There are places on this planet so dangerous that even stepping foot there could be a death sentence. Some locations are ruled by extreme weather, where the air itself can burn your lungs or freeze you to death in minutes. Others are plagued by violence, lawlessness, or crime so rampant that even the locals fear venturing outside. Then there are places where nature itself seems designed to eliminate anyone who dares to enter, landscapes poisoned by radiation, islands swarming with venomous creatures, and territories where humans are simply not welcome. The Earth is filled with wonders, but not all of them are safe. Some places are so hostile that even experienced explorers, scientists, and survival experts think twice before setting foot in them. These are the most extreme, perilous, and deadly locations in the world, places where human survival is nearly impossible, and even the smallest mistake can mean the difference between life and death. What makes a place dangerous? Danger can come in many forms. Some of the most hazardous places on Earth are shaped by extreme natural forces, such as scorching deserts with record-breaking temperatures or deep, uncharted trenches in the ocean where crushing pressure can obliterate anything that ventures too far down. Others are deadly because of human activity, such as war zones where violence is an everyday reality or cities where crime rates make simply walking outside a life-threatening decision. Then there are places that seem almost otherworldly, where toxic gases seep from the ground, turning lakes into caustic death traps, and entire islands are off-limits because of the sheer number of venomous creatures lurking in the shadows. Some places remain dangerous due to historical disasters, such as nuclear fallout zones where the radiation is still strong enough to be lethal decades later. In this video, we will uncover the world's most terrifying locations, places that few would dare to visit, and those who do may never return. The hidden dangers lurking around the globe. Imagine a lake so toxic that it preserves the bodies of dead animals, turning them into eerie statues of stone. Picture an island completely overrun by some of the deadliest snakes on the planet, where setting foot on land could mean certain death. Think of towering mountains where oxygen levels drop so low that climbers can die standing up, their bodies left behind as a warning to others who dare to make the journey. There are places where the ground is literally on fire, where lakes can boil you alive, and where entire islands are ruled by isolated tribes that kill anyone who gets too close. Some of these locations have been deemed unsafe by governments and are strictly off-limits, yet the dangers they pose still captivate the imagination of travelers, adventurers, and researchers alike. Why this matters? Understanding these locations isn't just about indulging curiosity or seeking adventure, it's about survival. Every year, thousands of people find themselves in life-threatening situations simply because they underestimate the dangers of these extreme environments. Tourists wander into lawless cities without realizing the risks, hikers underestimate the brutal conditions of Death Valley, and divers push their limits in waters that can turn deadly in an instant. Even in the modern world, where technology and knowledge have given us an unprecedented level of safety, there are still places on Earth where survival is not guaranteed. What makes these locations so extreme? How did they earn their reputation as the deadliest places on the planet? And most importantly, why do people still go there despite the risks? Prepare to uncover the shocking truth behind some of the most dangerous locations on Earth. From nuclear wastelands to forbidden islands, deadly mountains to extreme weather zones, the places you're about to discover are not for the faint of heart. Some of these locations are so hazardous that simply breathing the air can be fatal. Others are ruled by forces beyond human control, where no amount of survival knowledge can save you. These are the deadliest locations you should never visit. The Gates of Hell, Darvaza Gas Crater, Turkmenistan. A never-ending inferno in the middle of the desert. In the heart of Turkmenistan's vast Karakum Desert, there exists a fiery pit so intense that it has been burning for over 5 decades. Known as the Gates of Hell, the Darvaza Gas Crater is a nightmarish landscape of flames and toxic gases that looks more like the surface of another planet than a place on Earth. The crater is over 230 feet, 70 meters, wide and nearly 100 feet, 30 meters, deep, constantly emitting flames that rise unpredictably, illuminating the desert with an eerie glow. The heat from the pit is so extreme that standing too close for even a few minutes can cause severe burns. Despite its hostile conditions, the site has become a bizarre tourist attraction, drawing thrill seekers and adventurers from around the world. But few who visit realize the true danger that lurks beneath the flames, as the air around the crater is laced with toxic methane gas, a deadly element that could cause serious health effects with prolonged exposure. The accidental inferno that never went out. The story of how the Darvaza Gas Crater came to be is both fascinating and terrifying. In 1971, Soviet engineers were conducting gas drilling operations in the Karakum Desert, searching for natural gas reserves. When their equipment hit what they believed was a small gas pocket, the ground beneath them suddenly collapsed, creating a massive crater that began releasing large amounts of methane into the air. Fearing the potential hazards of an uncontrollable gas leak, the engineers made a decision that would change the landscape forever. They set the crater on fire, believing that the flames would consume the gas within a few weeks and then extinguish themselves. What they didn't anticipate was that the underground gas reserves were far more extensive than they had estimated. Instead of burning out, the fire continued, and more than 50 years later, it is still raging, consuming an untold supply of methane deep beneath the Earth's surface. Attempts to put it out have been unsuccessful, and the inferno has become a permanent fixture of the desert, earning its chilling nickname, the Gates of Hell. The deadly science behind the flame. The Darvaza Gas Crater is not just an eerie sight, it is a serious environmental and health hazard. The flames burn at extremely high temperatures, and the surrounding air is filled with methane, carbon dioxide, and other toxic gases that can cause immediate harm to anyone who breathes them in for too long. Methane is particularly dangerous because it displaces oxygen, leading to asphyxiation in high enough concentrations. For visitors who stand too close to the crater, the effects can be almost immediate: dizziness, nausea, and difficulty breathing. In severe cases, prolonged exposure can lead to unconsciousness or even death. In addition to the physical dangers, the crater is a major environmental concern. Methane is a potent greenhouse gas, 25 times more effective at trapping heat in the atmosphere than carbon dioxide. The continuous release of this gas contributes to global warming, making the crater a significant but often overlooked source of environmental damage. Scientists who risked their lives to study the crater. Despite the risks, some scientists have ventured dangerously close to the crater to study its impact on the environment and human health. One of the most notable expeditions was led by explorer and geoscientist George Korounis in 2013. He became the first known person to descend into the crater, wearing specialized protective gear and an oxygen supply to withstand the heat and toxic gases. Korounis collected samples from the bottom of the crater, searching for microbial life that might have adapted to the extreme environment. His findings suggested that certain bacteria could survive in the scorching, methane-rich conditions, leading to speculation that similar life forms might exist on other planets or moons with comparable environments. But the mission was far from safe. The intense heat nearly melted his protective equipment, and the unpredictable bursts of flames made every second inside the crater a potential death trap. His team had to work under extreme time pressure, knowing that even a small miscalculation could have fatal consequences. Why Turkmenistan refuses to put out the fire? Despite the clear dangers posed by the Darvaza Gas Crater, the Turkmenistan government has done little to stop the fire. In fact, the crater has become an unexpected source of tourism revenue, drawing international attention and putting the otherwise isolated country on the map. For a nation where over 70% of the land is covered by desert, the Gates of Hell is one of the few landmarks that generate global interest. The government actively promotes it as a tourist destination, despite the environmental concerns and health risks. There have been occasional discussions about sealing the crater to stop the methane leak, but experts warn that doing so could be technically impossible. The gas reserves beneath the crater are not fully mapped, and any attempt to extinguish the fire could trigger an even larger underground collapse or redirect the gas leak elsewhere, creating an even greater hazard. In 2022, Turkmenistan's president announced that efforts would be made to find a solution to the burning crater, citing concerns about environmental damage and wasted energy. However, no concrete action has been taken, and the fire continues to burn, consuming thousands of tons of natural gas every year. A burning reminder of human miscalculation. The Gates of Hell stands as a stark reminder of how a single human error can create an uncontrollable environmental disaster. What was supposed to be a temporary solution to a minor gas leak has instead become a permanent inferno, burning unchecked for over half a century. Even though it remains a popular tourist destination, those who visit must be aware of the very real dangers. The extreme heat, toxic gases, and unstable ground make it one of the most hazardous places on Earth. While it may be mesmerizing to witness the flames licking the night sky, standing too close for too long is a risk that no one should take lightly. As long as the fire continues to burn, the Gates of Hell will remain one of the most haunting and dangerous locations on the planet. Mount Everest, the dead zone, a dream destination or a death trap. Mount Everest stands as the ultimate test of human endurance, a towering peak that has fascinated and challenged climbers for generations. At 8,848 meters, 29,029 feet, it is the highest point on Earth, drawing thousands of adventurers who dream of standing on its legendary summit. But behind the romanticized image of Everest as a mountaineer's paradise lies a grim and far deadlier truth. It is not just a place of triumph, it is a graveyard. Beneath the excitement and the lure of personal achievement, Everest is an unforgiving and merciless force of nature. The mountain does not discriminate between elite climbers and amateurs, nor does it reward bravery. Every year, climbers embark on their perilous journey, and many never return. For some, the quest to conquer Everest ends in the infamous dead zone, a place where oxygen levels are so low that the human body begins shutting down, step by step, breath by breath. The dead zone, where the body begins to die above 8,000 meters, 26,247 feet, lies a region so dangerous that mountaineers refer to it as the dead zone. The air is so thin that oxygen levels drop to just 1/3 of what they are at sea level. At this altitude, the human body is in a state of slow-motion suffocation, struggling to keep vital organs functioning with barely enough oxygen to survive. The effects of this extreme hypoxia set in rapidly, causing climbers to experience confusion, hallucinations, extreme fatigue, and impaired judgment, often leading them to make fatal mistakes. Climbers describe the dead zone as a place where time slows down, where every step feels like an impossible task, and where the body begins to cannibalize itself. Muscles deteriorate, brain function declines, and even simple decisions become a challenge. For those who linger too long, high-altitude cerebral edema, HACE, and high-altitude pulmonary edema, HAPE, can develop, leading to swelling in the brain or lungs, causing dizziness, nausea, difficulty breathing, and ultimately, death. The frozen bodies that tell a chilling story. Mount Everest is often described as a natural museum of death, with the bodies of fallen climbers remaining frozen in time, eerily preserved by the extreme cold. Due to the harsh conditions, retrieving bodies is nearly impossible, and many climbers who die on the mountain are left where they fall. Their remains serve as grim markers along the ascent, known by haunting nicknames such as Green Boots, a climber whose body has become an infamous landmark near one of the final stretches to the summit. More than 300 climbers have lost their lives on Everest, with some estimates suggesting even higher numbers due to undocumented cases. The dangers are not just limited to the climb itself. Avalanches, blizzards, and sudden weather changes have claimed the lives of entire expeditions. Many bodies remain exactly as they were when their climbers perished, frozen in the same positions they died, still wearing their gear, some with faces covered in ice, others with expressions of terror captured forever in the frozen wasteland. The shocking story of Beck Weathers, a man left for dead. One of the most extraordinary survival stories from Everest is that of Beck Weathers, a climber who defied the odds and returned from the dead zone against all logic. In May 1996, Weathers joined a group attempting to summit Everest, but as they neared the top, a brutal storm rolled in, trapping climbers in blinding winds, freezing temperatures, and zero visibility. Weathers, suffering from severe frostbite and snowblindness, was left for dead by his expedition team. His face and limbs were so frozen that he was presumed to be beyond saving. He lay in the snow for over 18 hours, completely exposed to temperatures reaching 60 degrees Celsius, 76 degrees Fahrenheit. When rescuers passed by, they assumed he was dead and continued onward. But against all odds, Weathers woke up. Disoriented and in unimaginable pain, he somehow managed to stumble down the mountain. His frostbite was so severe that he lost both hands, his nose, and parts of his face, yet he survived what should have been certain death. His story is a rare miracle in a place where survival is often determined by sheer luck rather than skill or preparation. A mountain that shows no mercy. Despite the obvious dangers, Everest continues to attract climbers from around the world, some experienced, others woefully unprepared. The commercialization of Everest has led to an influx of tourists with minimal climbing experience, creating traffic jams at dangerous altitudes. In recent years, long lines of climbers waiting to summit have led to tragedy, as delays force climbers to remain in the dead zone far longer than their bodies can handle. Rescue operations are nearly impossible at high altitudes. Helicopters struggle to fly in thin air, and carrying an injured climber down the mountain is often a death sentence for the rescuers themselves. When disaster strikes, those in distress are often left behind, a harsh but necessary reality on Everest. For those who dream of standing atop the highest point on Earth, the warnings are clear. Mount Everest is not just a challenge, it is a killer. The mountain has claimed hundreds of lives and will continue to do so, a ruthless reminder that in nature's most extreme environments, human ambition often meets its limit. Those who dare to climb must be prepared to face the ultimate risk, knowing that the dead zone is unforgiving, and once you enter, there is no guarantee you will make it out alive. Chernobyl exclusion zone, Ukraine. The nuclear disaster that shook the world on April 26, 1986. A catastrophic explosion at Reactor 4 of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant in Pripyat, Ukraine released an unprecedented amount of radioactive material into the atmosphere. The explosion, caused by a failed safety test and a reactor design flaw, led to the worst nuclear disaster in human history. A plume of radioactive fallout spread across Europe, contaminating vast areas of land, forcing the evacuation of more than 100,000 people, and creating a dead zone that remains uninhabitable decades later. The initial explosion killed 2 workers instantly, but the real horror unfolded in the following days. Firefighters and emergency responders arrived at the scene, completely unaware that they were being lethally exposed to high doses of radiation. Most of them died within weeks due to acute radiation sickness, their bodies so contaminated that they had to be buried in lead-lined coffins to prevent further exposure. The town of Pripyat, home to nearly 50,000 residents, was evacuated within 36 hours, but by then, it was too late. The radioactive cloud released by Chernobyl spread over Europe and even reached North America, prompting widespread panic. Countries scrambled to test their food supplies for contamination, while Soviet authorities attempted to cover up the full extent of the disaster. The long-term effects of Chernobyl's radiation leak continue to affect people today, making the exclusion zone one of the most dangerous places on Earth. The invisible killer: how radiation affects the human body The radiation released by Chernobyl is not something you can see, hear, or feel, making it one of the most insidious dangers known to mankind. Exposure to high levels of radiation can cause devastating health effects, from cancer and organ failure to genetic mutations that affect future generations. One of the most immediate consequences of Chernobyl's radiation exposure was a massive increase in thyroid cancer cases, particularly among children. The ingestion of radioactive iodine-131 contaminated milk and water supplies, leading to thousands of cases of aggressive tumors. Many survivors of the initial disaster suffered from radiation burns, weakened immune systems, and neurological damage. The long-term effects are even more terrifying. Scientists have observed genetic mutations in both humans and animals, leading to higher birth defect rates and chronic illnesses. The radiation has also been linked to increased cases of leukemia, lung cancer, and cardiovascular diseases in exposed populations. Some estimates suggest that the true death toll of Chernobyl, including long-term radiation-related illnesses, could exceed 100,000 people, far more than the official reports acknowledge. The elephant's foot, the most radioactive object on Earth. One of the most terrifying remnants of the Chernobyl disaster is the elephant's foot, a deadly mass of molten radioactive material that formed beneath Reactor 4. Created when nuclear fuel rods melted and mixed with concrete, steel, and sand, this horrific structure is one of the most lethal objects ever recorded. When it was first discovered in December 1986, the elephant's foot was emitting 10,000 roentgens per hour, enough to kill a person in less than 5 minutes. Even today, decades after the disaster, it remains dangerously radioactive. Scientists who attempted to study it in the early years risked their lives, using remote-controlled robots to capture images and gather data. Several of these robots failed within minutes due to the overwhelming radiation levels, their electronics fried before they could complete their tasks. For years, researchers feared that another explosion could occur if groundwater came into contact with the radioactive mass. Although the intensity of the elephant's foot has slightly diminished over time, standing too close to it today could still cause severe radiation poisoning and long-term health effects. It remains one of the deadliest legacies of the disaster, a haunting symbol of human error and the devastating power of nuclear energy when it goes wrong. The ghosts of Chernobyl, illegal residents in the exclusion zone. Despite the extreme radiation levels, some people have refused to leave Chernobyl. Known as the Samosli, these illegal residents have defied government orders and continued living within the exclusion zone, believing that their connection to their homeland is stronger than the invisible dangers of radiation. Many of these residents are elderly individuals who returned after the initial evacuation, unwilling to spend their final years away from their homes. The Ukrainian government has mostly turned a blind eye to their presence, recognizing that removing them again would be futile. Some residents even grow their own food, hunt animals, and drink water from contaminated wells, despite the risks of radiation poisoning. Their continued survival raises an unsettling question: are humans more resilient to radiation than previously thought, or are these individuals simply slowly succumbing to the toxic environment without realizing it? Scientists have studied these communities, looking for genetic mutations or unique adaptations that might explain their ability to withstand radiation exposure. However, the long-term effects remain unknown, and many of these individuals suffer from chronic illnesses, high cancer rates, and shortened lifespans. A surprising twist: the wildlife boom in Chernobyl. While humans cannot safely live in the Chernobyl exclusion zone, wildlife is thriving in the radioactive wasteland. In the absence of human activity, bears, wolves, lynxes, bison, and even endangered species have returned, reclaiming the land as their own. Scientists have been astonished by the sheer number of animals that have adapted to living in a radioactive environment, raising new questions about nature's resilience in the face of extreme disasters. Radiation-related mutations have been observed in some animals, but for the most part, wildlife populations appear to be healthier and more abundant than in surrounding areas. Some experts argue that Chernobyl has ironically become an accidental wildlife refuge, proving that the absence of humans is more beneficial to nature than the presence of radiation. Despite its eerie beauty and growing biodiversity, Chernobyl remains one of the most hazardous places on Earth. Radiation levels in certain areas are still lethal, and exposure to contaminated materials can have lasting consequences for human health. Tourists who visit the site must follow strict safety protocols, avoiding contact with radioactive structures, soil, and water. Even short-term exposure in the wrong area can lead to dangerous radiation absorption. The disaster of Chernobyl serves as a warning to humanity, a reminder of how a single technological failure and human miscalculation can create devastation that lasts for centuries. While the wildlife may have reclaimed the land, the shadow of nuclear catastrophe still lingers, a stark symbol of the dangers that remain beneath the surface. Snake Island, Brazil, the forbidden land of venom, may place too deadly for humans. Off the coast of Brazil, hidden away in the Atlantic Ocean, lies an island so dangerous that even the government has banned most people from stepping foot on it. Known as Ilha da Queimada Grande, or Snake Island, this isolated landmass is home to a terrifying predator that dominates the island without competition, the golden lancehead viper. This species of snake is so venomous that a single bite can melt human flesh, cause organ failure, and lead to death within hours. With no natural predators, the golden lancehead has thrived on the island, making it one of the highest concentrations of deadly snakes anywhere in the world. The idea of an island ruled by venomous serpents might sound like something out of mythology, but Snake Island is very real, and it remains one of the most hazardous places on Earth. A land overrun by deadly snakes. What makes Snake Island truly terrifying is the sheer number of snakes that inhabit it. Scientists estimate that there are between 1 to 5 golden lancehead vipers per square meter, meaning that almost anywhere you step, a snake is likely lurking nearby. Unlike other islands where human intervention has led to the decline of local wildlife, the lack of predators and human activity on Snake Island has allowed the golden lancehead population to grow unchecked for thousands of years. This high concentration of venomous snakes is the result of evolution and geographical isolation. Thousands of years ago, rising sea levels cut off Snake Island from the mainland of Brazil, leaving the snakes stranded with no way to leave. With no mammals to hunt, the vipers adapted by developing an even deadlier venom, one that works almost instantly to immobilize the birds they prey upon. Unlike other pit vipers, which typically bite and track their victims, the golden lancehead's venom is so powerful that birds die almost immediately, preventing them from flying away before the snake can consume them. For humans, this venom is an absolute nightmare. It is estimated to be 5 times stronger than the venom of its mainland relatives, capable of causing massive internal bleeding, kidney failure, and brain hemorrhaging. There is no known antivenom specifically for the golden lancehead, and a bite in such a remote location means that survival is nearly impossible. A forbidden island? Why even scientists need special permission? Because of its extreme dangers, the Brazilian government has completely restricted access to Snake Island. Only highly trained researchers and scientists are allowed to visit, and even they must obtain special permits. These expeditions are conducted with extreme caution, and researchers wear protective gear and follow strict protocols to ensure their safety. The Brazilian Navy conducts routine inspections to ensure that no unauthorized visitors attempt to enter the island. Despite this, there have been reports of smugglers, often referred to as biopirates, who risk their lives to capture golden lancehead vipers and sell them on the black market. These snakes are highly sought after by collectors and medical researchers, with some individual vipers fetching tens of thousands of dollars due to their rarity and the potency of their venom. While the government's restrictions are meant to protect both humans and the snakes, the legends surrounding Snake Island have only made it more infamous. Stories of fishermen who mysteriously vanished and secret treasure hidden beneath the snake-infested terrain continue to add to the island's mystique. The fishermen who never returned. One of the most chilling stories about Snake Island is the fate of a group of fishermen who accidentally landed on its shores. According to local legend, these fishermen were searching for a place to rest when they unknowingly anchored their boat near the island. Unaware of the lethal danger lurking in the undergrowth, they set foot on Snake Island, only to disappear without a trace. Days later, their boat was found drifting aimlessly in the ocean, with no sign of the men who had been aboard. Some believe they were overwhelmed by the sheer number of snakes, unable to escape as the vipers attacked from all directions. Others suggest that they were bitten while trying to make their way back to the boat, succumbing to the venom before they could reach safety. Whatever the truth may be, the story remains a grim warning of what happens when humans venture where they do not belong. The truth behind the fear: are the snakes really that aggressive? Despite its terrifying reputation, there is one major myth about Snake Island that needs to be debunked: the idea that the golden lancehead vipers are actively aggressive toward humans. In reality, these snakes are not naturally hostile, and they typically strike only when they feel threatened. The reason they are so dangerous is not their aggression, but rather their extreme numbers and highly potent venom. The snakes have no reason to seek out human prey, as they have evolved to hunt birds. However, because the island is covered in dense foliage and rocky terrain, any human who sets foot on the island is almost certain to accidentally step on or disturb a snake, triggering a deadly defensive bite. In a place where hundreds of snakes could be within a few steps of you, avoiding contact is almost impossible. The Brazilian government's decision to ban human entry is not just about protecting people, it's also about preserving the delicate ecosystem of the island. The golden lancehead exists nowhere else in the world, and any significant human interference could disrupt their fragile population. Some researchers argue that the fear surrounding Snake Island is overblown, but even they admit that the risks of visiting far outweigh any possible reward. A place best left untouched. Snake Island remains one of the most dangerous places on Earth, not because of war, crime, or natural disasters, but because nature itself has created an environment where humans simply cannot survive. The incredible density of venomous snakes, the lack of any medical assistance, and the extreme isolation make it a location that few would ever dare to visit. Even though it has become a legendary site among thrill seekers, the reality is that Snake Island is not a place for adventure, it is a place of no return. The snakes do not care about human myths or stories. They rule their island, and those who step foot on their territory do so at their own peril. Death Valley, USA, the hottest place on Earth. A land of extreme heat and endless desolation. There are few places on Earth as unforgiving as Death Valley, a vast, sun-scorched landscape that holds the record for the hottest temperature ever recorded on the planet. Situated in eastern California, near the Nevada border, this barren land is more than just a desert. It is a place where the very air can feel like fire, where survival is a battle against relentless heat, dehydration, and isolation. With temperatures soaring to 56.7 degrees Celsius, 134 degrees Fahrenheit, Death Valley is not just a name, it is a warning. The land itself seems designed to repel life, a place where few things can survive, and where those who enter unprepared may never return. Despite its dangers, the valley continues to attract thousands of visitors each year, many of whom underestimate its lethal conditions. The highest recorded temperature on Earth on July 10, 1913, Death Valley reached 56.7 degrees Celsius, 134 degrees Fahrenheit, at Furnace Creek, a record that still stands today as the highest temperature ever reliably recorded on Earth. The heat in Death Valley is not just about the numbers, it is about the way it suffocates, drains energy, and pushes the human body to its limits. Unlike other deserts, where temperature drops at night provide some relief, Death Valley's heat is relentless. The valley's unique geography, surrounded by high mountain ranges that trap hot air, makes it a natural oven, absorbing heat during the day and radiating it back out at night. This means that even when the sun sets, temperatures can remain dangerously high. For those who venture into this extreme environment, the risks are immediate. Sweat evaporates so quickly that people don't realize how much fluid they're losing, leading to dehydration, heat exhaustion, and life-threatening heat stroke. A deadly furnace that can kill without warning. The heat in Death Valley is more than just an inconvenience, it is a silent killer. Temperatures can rise so high that even experienced hikers and survivalists struggle to endure them. Exposure to extreme heat can cause hallucinations, dizziness, confusion, and loss of coordination, making it easy for travelers to become disoriented and lost. Heat stroke sets in when the body's internal temperature rises above 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, leading to organ failure, brain damage, and death if not treated immediately. In these conditions, cars can break down, cell phones lose service, and water supplies evaporate faster than expected. Many who perish in Death Valley do so not because of lack of preparation, but because they underestimate how quickly the body can shut down in the extreme heat. One of the most chilling aspects of Death Valley is the presence of dry lake beds that appear solid but can be death traps for those who attempt to cross them. The intense sun bakes the ground to the point where footsteps sink deep into the cracked earth, making walking slow and exhausting. Many who have attempted to hike across these vast, open areas have collapsed before reaching the other side. The story of a lost traveler who defied death. Survival stories in Death Valley are rare, but one case stands out as a testament to human resilience against impossible odds. In 2013, a man named Ricky McGee found himself stranded in the valley after his car broke down on a remote road. With no water, no supplies, and no way to call for help, he was left alone in the most hostile environment on Earth. For 9 days, McGee wandered the valley, surviving on cactus, insects, and any drops of water he could find. By the time he was discovered, he had lost nearly half his body weight, his skin was burned beyond recognition, and his organs were beginning to fail. Rescuers said that had he been out there for just one more day, he would not have survived. His case is one of the few where someone has escaped Death Valley without proper survival gear. Many others who have attempted to cross its dangerous terrain have not been so lucky. Why tourists continue to visit despite the risk? Despite the well-documented dangers, Death Valley remains a major tourist attraction, drawing thousands of visitors every year. Adventurers are lured by its otherworldly landscapes, breathtaking dunes, and extreme reputation. Some come to experience the lowest point in North America, Badwater Basin, which sits 282 feet, 86 meters, below sea level. Others attempt dangerous hikes through the valley's remote trails, testing their endurance against the harshest climate on Earth. Park rangers constantly warn visitors about the dangers, advising them to bring plenty of water, avoid hiking during peak heat hours, and stay on marked trails. But every year, people ignore these warnings, and rescues become a common occurrence. Many fail to realize that help in Death Valley is not always guaranteed. In the most extreme conditions, search and rescue teams may not arrive in time. Some thrill seekers deliberately push their limits, attempting ultramarathons and endurance challenges in the valley. The Badwater Ultramarathon, a 135-mile race through the desert, is considered one of the toughest races in the world. Runners battle temperatures that can melt shoe soles, pushing their bodies to extremes that few can endure. Wildlife that has mastered the art of survival. While humans struggle to exist in Death Valley, the wildlife of the region has evolved to thrive in its brutal conditions. Animals like the desert tortoise, sidewinder rattlesnake, and the kangaroo rat have developed adaptations that allow them to survive with little to no water. The kangaroo rat, for example, can go its entire life without drinking a single drop, obtaining all the moisture it needs from the seeds it eats. The desert pea upfish, a species that lives in small pools of water scattered throughout the valley, has adapted to survive in conditions that would kill most other fish. These hardy creatures are capable of withstanding temperatures up to 43 degrees Celsius, 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and water that is saltier than the ocean. Despite the valley's unbearable heat, plant life also finds a way to exist. Creosote bushes, mesquite trees, and cacti have evolved to store water efficiently, allowing them to survive long droughts and extreme temperatures. These natural adaptations are proof that, while Death Valley may be inhospitable to most creatures, life always finds a way. A land of beauty and death, Death Valley remains one of the most extreme environments on Earth, a place where life and death are constantly at battle. It is a landscape of breathtaking beauty, yet it carries an unforgiving nature that punishes those who do not respect it. For those who visit, the warnings are clear: this is not a place to take lightly. The heat can kill within hours, the isolation can leave you stranded, and mistakes are often fatal. But for those who prepare, who understand the risks, and who embrace the sheer power of nature, Death Valley offers an experience unlike any other. It is a reminder that the world still holds places where humans are not in control, where survival depends not on technology or convenience, but on the ability to respect and adapt to the forces of nature. Death Valley is both a wonder and a warning, a place where the limits of endurance are tested, and where the sun never truly forgives. North Sentinel Island, India, the island of untouchables, a forbidden land lost in time. Hidden deep in the Bay of Bengal, shrouded by thick jungle and mystery, lies North Sentinel Island, one of the most isolated and untouched places on Earth. Unlike other remote islands that have been explored, mapped, and even settled, North Sentinel remains a place where modern civilization is not welcome. It is home to the Sentinelese, a fiercely independent and isolated tribe that has resisted outside contact for centuries. Unlike many indigenous groups that have been displaced or assimilated by the modern world, the Sentinelese remain untouched by technology, globalization, and the influences of modern society. They live as their ancestors did thousands of years ago, hunting with handmade bows and arrows, fishing in the surrounding waters, and protecting their land from anyone who dares to approach. Their message to the outside world is clear: stay away, or face the consequences. A history of deadly encounters. North Sentinel Island is not just an uncontacted tribe's home, it is a place where outsiders have repeatedly lost their lives. The Sentinelese have made it known, time and time again, that any approach to their island is considered an act of aggression, and they respond with deadly force. One of the earliest recorded encounters took place in 1880, when a British expedition led by Maurice Vidal Portman landed on the island in an attempt to make contact. Portman and his team abducted 6 Sentinelese, 2 elderly individuals and 4 children, and took them to the Andaman Islands. The elders soon fell ill and died, likely due to exposure to foreign diseases, forcing the British to return the children to the island. It is believed that this traumatic event solidified the Sentinelese's deep mistrust of outsiders, a fear that has been passed down through generations. In 1974, a group of filmmakers attempted to document the Sentinelese, hoping to get rare footage of their isolated lifestyle. As their boat approached the island, a Sentinelese warrior emerged from the forest and fired an arrow straight into the camera lens, sending a clear warning that no filming would take place on their land. The team immediately retreated, realizing that the Sentinelese had no interest in being studied or observed. In 2006, two fishermen who drifted too close to the island while illegally fishing for crabs were attacked and killed. When the Indian government attempted to recover their bodies, they were met with flying arrows and spears, forcing them to abandon the mission. The bodies were never retrieved, and the fishermen's fate served as yet another warning that North Sentinel Island is not a place for outsiders. A strict government ban, no one is allowed to approach. Recognizing the extreme hostility of the Sentinelese and the dangers of further contact, the Indian government has declared North Sentinel Island completely off limits. The island is surrounded by a 5-kilometer, 3-mile, exclusion zone, enforced by the Indian Navy, and any attempt to approach is punishable by law. This ban is not only to protect outsiders from harm, but also to safeguard the Sentinelese from exposure to modern diseases. With no immunity to viruses like the common cold, influenza, or even simple bacterial infections, any contact with outsiders could wipe out the entire tribe within days. This has been the fate of many other isolated indigenous populations, whose numbers were devastated after contact with European explorers. Despite the legal restrictions, some have still attempted to reach North Sentinel Island, often with deadly consequences. The most high-profile case in recent years involved John Allen Chau, a 26-year-old American missionary who ignored every warning and paid the ultimate price. The missionary who ignored warnings and was killed. In 2018, John Allen Chau made international headlines after attempting an illegal and unauthorized visit to North Sentinel Island. A devout Christian, Chau believed it was his divine mission to bring the message of God to the Sentinelese, despite overwhelming evidence that they did not want contact with the outside world. He paid local fishermen to smuggle him close to the island, bypassing the government-enforced exclusion zone. On his first attempt to make contact, he was met with hostility, as Sentinelese warriors fired arrows at him, one of which struck his waterproof Bible. Chau retreated but refused to give up. Ignoring the warnings, he returned the next day, determined to convert the tribe to Christianity. This time, he did not make it back. The fisherman who had assisted him later reported seeing Sentinelese dragging his lifeless body along the beach, and it was presumed that he had been killed with arrows and buried on the island. Efforts to recover his body were abandoned after officials determined that any rescue mission would put both the Indian authorities and the Sentinelese at risk. Chau's death reignited a global debate about whether uncontacted tribes should remain isolated or if efforts should be made to integrate them into the modern world. Should uncontacted tribes be left alone? The case of North Sentinel Island presents a difficult ethical dilemma. On one hand, some argue that uncontacted tribes like the Sentinelese deserve to be left alone, free to preserve their way of life without outside interference. Any attempt to force integration could destroy their culture, expose them to deadly diseases, and lead to the collapse of their society. On the other hand, there are those who believe that no human population should be completely cut off from the rest of the world. They argue that modern medicine, education, and technology could improve their quality of life and help them avoid extinction in the future. However, history has shown that such interventions often lead to cultural erosion, exploitation, and unintended harm. For now, the Indian government has taken the stance that absolute isolation is the best course of action. There are no known plans to force contact with the Sentinelese, and the harsh penalties for attempting to approach the island act as a strong deterrent. North Sentinel Island remains one of the last truly untouched places on Earth, a world locked in time, where modern civilization has no influence. The Sentinelese have made their wishes clear: they do not want to be found, they do not want to be studied, and they do not want to be saved. They are the last untouchables, fiercely guarding their island, their culture, and their lives. For now, their story remains unfinished, a testament to the power of isolation in an age of global connectivity. And as long as they continue to resist contact, North Sentinel Island will remain one of the most dangerous and mysterious places on Earth. Lake Natron, Tanzania, the lake that turns animals into stone. A body of water unlike any other. Nestled in northern Tanzania, near the Kenyan border, Lake Natron is a place that defies nature's norms. At first glance, the lake appears otherworldly, with its deep red waters, cracked shores, and an eerie stillness that gives it a haunting beauty. But what truly sets it apart is its deadly chemistry, a body of water so toxic that it can burn, corrode, and even mummify animals that come into contact with it. This isn't just a lake, it's a chemical trap. The water's pH level reaches 10.5, making it almost as caustic as ammonia or bleach. Its high alkalinity comes from volcanic ash and minerals washed down from the nearby Great Rift Valley, creating a hypersaline environment where few living creatures can survive. The lake's surface can reach temperatures of 60 degrees Celsius, 140 degrees Fahrenheit, turning it into a simmering cauldron of danger. Any unsuspecting animal that wades too deep or drinks from the toxic waters risks severe burns, blindness, or even death. The science behind nature's most unusual graveyard. Lake Natron's waters are not just deadly, they are also preservative. When an animal dies in or near the lake, the high alkalinity and mineral content slowly harden its body, creating the illusion that it has been turned to stone. The process, known as calcification, is similar to what happens when certain substances are preserved in limestone or fossilized over time. The lake acts like a natural embalming fluid, coating the bodies of birds, bats, and other small creatures in a hardened layer of minerals. Scientists believe that the lake's unique chemistry is caused by sodium carbonate and other minerals that flow in from volcanic sources. This natural composition has existed for thousands of years, making the lake one of the most extreme environments on Earth. While some lakes become toxic due to human pollution, Lake Natron's lethal properties are entirely natural, shaped by volcanic and geological processes that continue to shape the East African landscape. For decades, locals have told stories of birds falling from the sky, their bodies mysteriously stiffened and coated in an eerie white crust. While the stories sound like folklore, the phenomenon is very real. Hundreds of birds die each year after misjudging the lake's surface, mistaking it for a regular body of water. When they attempt to land, they are either burned by the chemical composition or trapped by the thick salt deposits that form along the shore. The photographer who captured stone-like creatures one of the most chilling visual records of Lake Natron's deadly effect came from Nick Brandt, a photographer who stumbled upon petrified animals along the lake's edge. Brandt's images, published in 2013, depict perfectly preserved birds, bats, and small mammals, their bodies hardened in a death pose as if frozen in time. Brandt explained that he did not move the animals but simply posed them on rocks exactly as he found them, highlighting the lake's ability to turn life into a permanent sculpture. The images went viral, sparking worldwide curiosity and fascination with the lake's eerie properties. Many people assumed that the lake had some supernatural ability to turn animals into statues instantly, but the reality is that the process takes time. The creatures that succumb to the lake's toxicity do not turn to stone immediately, but over weeks or months as the minerals slowly coat their remains. His haunting photos raised questions about why some creatures fall victim to the lake while others thrive in its toxic waters. A paradox of life and death, the fish that survive despite its lethal environment, Lake Natron is not entirely lifeless. In a twist of nature's resilience, some species have evolved to withstand the extreme conditions. The lake is home to flamingos, tilapia fish, and various microorganisms that have adapted to survive where most life cannot. Flamingos, in particular, have turned Lake Natron into their primary breeding ground, thriving in the very waters that kill other birds. Their tough scaly legs and specialized glands allow them to filter out the toxic elements, enabling them to survive in an environment that would kill most other birds instantly. Flamingos build mud nests on the lake's small islands, creating a natural defense against predators, as few animals dare to cross the burning, caustic waters. Another surprising survivor is the alkaline tilapia, a fish species that has developed unique biological adaptations to endure the lake's extreme pH and high temperatures. Unlike other freshwater fish, these tilapia have modified gills and blood chemistry, allowing them to process water with dangerously high salt and alkaline content. This rare biological trait has fascinated scientists, as it suggests that life can evolve even in conditions that appear entirely uninhabitable. The presence of these creatures in such a hostile environment challenges the idea that Lake Natron is purely a place of death. Instead, it is a testament to nature's ability to adapt, proving that even in the most extreme conditions, life finds a way. A deadly yet essential ecosystem. Lake Natron's eerie beauty, combined with its unique scientific properties, has made it one of the most dangerous and misunderstood lakes on Earth. While it is undoubtedly lethal to many animals, it is also a critical ecosystem for the survival of certain species, particularly lesser flamingos, which rely on the lake for nesting and food. Conservationists warn that human interference could disrupt this delicate balance, as nearby industrial projects threaten to introduce pollutants and disrupt water levels. If the lake's chemistry is altered, it could wipe out the species that have adapted to live there, destroying an ecosystem that has existed for thousands of years. Lake Natron remains a place of contradictions, a deadly graveyard for some, but a sanctuary for others. Its ability to preserve the dead while sustaining life is one of nature's strangest paradoxes, a reminder that the Earth still holds places where the rules of survival are rewritten. For those who dare to visit, it is a place of awe, mystery, and caution, a body of water that proves nature's power is both beautiful and unforgiving. Mariana Trench, the deepest place on Earth, the world beyond human reach. Far beneath the surface of the Pacific Ocean lies one of the most extreme and unexplored places on Earth, the Mariana Trench. Located east of the Philippines, this vast underwater abyss plunges to an unimaginable depth of 36,000 feet, 11,000 meters, making it the deepest known point in the world's oceans. If Mount Everest were dropped into the trench, it would be completely submerged, with more than a mile of water still above its peak. Unlike the vast stretches of the ocean floor that have been mapped and studied, the Mariana Trench remains largely a mystery. It is an environment of eternal darkness, crushing pressure, and freezing temperatures, a place where few creatures can survive, and where scientists believe some of the most bizarre and undiscovered life forms may still lurk. A world under crushing pressure. At the bottom of the Mariana Trench, the pressure is so extreme that it defies human comprehension. It is estimated to be more than 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure at sea level, equivalent to the weight of 50 jumbo jets or 1,000 elephants pressing down on every square meter. This level of force would instantly crush most known life forms, making the trench one of the most inhospitable places on the planet. Because of these conditions, only a handful of manned missions have ever reached the bottom. The pressure is so intense that even advanced submarines risk imploding if not built with the strongest materials. The crushing force also limits scientific exploration, as most deep-sea equipment struggles to withstand the extreme conditions. Even remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, and submersibles must be specially reinforced to avoid destruction at these depths. Despite the hostile conditions, scientists have discovered life flourishing in the trench, proving that even in the most extreme environments, nature finds a way to adapt. The creatures that live here have evolved in ways that defy normal biological understanding, surviving without sunlight, in near-freezing waters, and under unimaginable pressure. The monsters of the deep, life in the darkness. The Mariana Trench is home to some of the most terrifying and alien-like creatures on Earth. In the complete absence of sunlight, most life forms rely on bioluminescence, the ability to produce their own light, to hunt and navigate the abyss. These creatures are often equipped with glowing lures, translucent bodies, and needle-like teeth, perfectly adapted to an environment of eternal darkness. One of the most infamous deep-sea predators is the giant squid, a creature once thought to be the stuff of myth and legend. With eyes the size of dinner plates, razor-sharp tentacles, and the ability to grow over 40 feet, 12 meters, long, the giant squid is a formidable deep-sea hunter. It is believed that these massive creatures roam the deepest parts of the ocean, engaging in battles with sperm whales, their only known predator. Other terrifying species include the anglerfish, a grotesque predator that uses a bioluminescent lure to attract prey into its gaping jaws, and the deep-sea dragonfish, which possesses invisible fangs and light-producing organs that allow it to hunt in total darkness. Even more bizarre are amphipods, shrimp-like scavengers that have adapted to survive in the trench's extreme conditions, feeding on whatever organic material drifts down from above. Many scientists believe that we have only scratched the surface of what lies in the deepest parts of the trench. The creatures we know about are likely just a fraction of what exists, and some researchers theorize that there could still be undiscovered predators lurking in the abyss, waiting to be found. The James Cameron mission, exploring the abyss. Only a select few have ever reached the deepest part of the Mariana Trench, known as the Challenger Deep. In 2012, Hollywood director and deep-sea explorer James Cameron made history by becoming the first person to complete a solo dive to the bottom. In a specially designed submersible, Cameron descended for over 2 hours before finally reaching the trench floor. At the bottom, he was met with an alien world, a barren landscape of fine sediment, strange creatures, and eerie silence. He spent several hours filming and collecting samples, providing some of the first detailed footage of the trench's depths. His submersible was equipped with cameras and robotic arms, allowing him to document the mysterious life forms that inhabit the abyss. Cameron described the experience as being in a completely different world, where the isolation and darkness were overwhelming. He compared the Mariana Trench to outer space, stating that humanity knows more about the surface of the moon than it does about the deepest parts of its own planet. His expedition was a monumental achievement in oceanic exploration, proving that technology could finally allow humans to reach the deepest known place on Earth. Are there unknown dangers lurking in the deep? Despite our advancements in technology, more than 80% of the ocean remains unexplored, and the Mariana Trench is no exception. Scientists believe that it could hold some of the most important discoveries in marine biology, as well as potential dangers we have yet to encounter. One of the most unsettling theories is that deep-sea organisms could pose unknown threats to humanity. Some researchers fear that undiscovered life forms could carry bacteria or toxins unlike anything seen before, potentially lethal to surface-dwelling organisms. Others speculate about the existence of megafauna, massive, undiscovered species that could rival the largest creatures known to science. Beyond biology, there is also concern about human activity disturbing the delicate balance of the trench. With increased interest in deep-sea mining, there is a risk that drilling and extraction operations could irreversibly damage the trench's ecosystem, introducing pollution and destabilizing species that have remained unchanged for millions of years. The Mariana Trench remains one of the last truly unexplored frontiers on Earth, a place where science and mystery collide. It is a testament to the vastness of our planet, reminding us that there are still places where humanity has barely left a footprint. The darkness hides secrets we have yet to uncover, and as technology advances, it is only a matter of time before we venture deeper into the unknown. For now, the Mariana Trench stands as the deepest, most mysterious place on Earth, a realm of crushing pressure, alien creatures, and unanswered questions. It is a reminder that even in the age of satellites and space travel, there are still places on our own planet that remain beyond our understanding. What lies in its depths may forever change our perception of life on Earth, and perhaps, beyond it. The Danakil Depression, Ethiopia, Earth's hell on Earth. The landscape of fire and fury. Deep in the Afar region of Ethiopia lies a place so extreme that it has been described as the closest thing to hell on Earth. The Danakil Depression is one of the hottest, driest, and most geologically active places on the planet, a vast inferno where boiling lava, toxic gas, and bubbling sulfuric pools create an otherworldly and hostile landscape. It is a place where the ground is unstable, the air is filled with deadly fumes, and the scorching heat can kill within hours. Sitting at the junction of three tectonic plates, the Danakil Depression is constantly shifting, with the Earth's crust pulling apart and new land being formed in real time. The region is littered with active volcanoes, steaming geysers, and acid lakes, making it one of the most volatile environments on Earth. The colors of the terrain are surreal, with neon greens, fiery oranges, and deep reds created by mineral deposits reacting with the extreme conditions. While the landscape is breathtaking, it is also one of the deadliest places on Earth, where survival is nearly impossible. A land too harsh for human life. The Danakil Depression is one of the hottest places on the planet, with temperatures regularly reaching 50 degrees Celsius, 122 degrees Fahrenheit, and sometimes even higher. Unlike other hot regions where temperatures drop at night, the heat in Danakil is unrelenting, with no respite from the scorching sun. The intense heat, combined with the lack of water and high humidity, makes the area almost completely uninhabitable. The atmosphere itself is toxic in many parts of the depression. Vast clouds of sulfur dioxide, chlorine, and carbon dioxide rise from the volcanic vents, making the air difficult to breathe. Prolonged exposure can cause severe respiratory problems, dizziness, and even unconsciousness. Many parts of the region are so dangerous that even standing too close to certain hot springs or geysers can result in death from inhaling lethal gases. Despite these extreme conditions, a small number of Afar people, a nomadic ethnic group, still inhabit parts of the region. They are among the few who have adapted to the harshest living conditions on Earth, enduring the blistering heat and extracting salt from the desert, a resource they have traded for centuries. A testing ground for life on other planets, the Danakil Depression is not just a place of extreme heat and volcanic activity. It is also one of the most important sites for scientific research. The conditions here are so extreme that NASA and astrobiologists study the region as a possible model for life on Mars and other alien worlds. The intense heat, high salinity, and acidic pools create an environment that closely resembles what scientists believe ancient Mars may have looked like. Some of the geothermal springs in Danakil contain microbial life that has adapted to survive in these extreme conditions, offering valuable insights into how life might exist beyond Earth. Researchers have discovered that certain species of extremophiles, microorganisms that thrive in extreme environments, can survive in these boiling, acidic pools, raising the possibility that similar life forms could be found on planets like Venus, Europa, or even Mars. The Danakil Depression has become a living laboratory, allowing scientists to study how life can persist in places where it should be impossible. These discoveries have fascinated space agencies and geologists, but conducting research in such an extreme environment is a life-threatening challenge. The scientists who risk their lives to study exploring the Danakil Depression is no easy task, and many scientists who venture into the region face serious dangers. The extreme heat and toxic gases make it impossible to stay for long periods without special protective equipment, and even with preparation, researchers often suffer from heat exhaustion and breathing difficulties. One of the biggest hazards is the unstable ground. Many of the colorful pools and crusty landscapes are thin layers of earth covering boiling acidic water beneath, meaning that stepping in the wrong place could cause someone to fall through and be instantly burned by the scalding liquid below. In one documented case, a team of geologists studying the sulfuric pools suffered severe burns and chemical exposure when a section of ground collapsed beneath them. They had to be airlifted out of the region, suffering from respiratory issues and skin damage caused by the extreme environment. The difficulty of working in the Danakil Depression is so severe that only a handful of researchers visit the area each year, and many expeditions have been cut short due to the unpredictable and dangerous nature of the terrain. The unbelievable rise of extreme tourism. Despite the deadly conditions, the Danakil Depression has started to attract a new type of visitor, thrill seekers who want to experience Earth's most extreme environments firsthand. Tour companies now offer guided expeditions into the region, promising adventurers the chance to witness boiling lava lakes, steaming vents, and alien landscapes up close. Some tourists are drawn to the idea of standing in a place so extreme that scientists compare it to another planet, while others simply want the bragging rights of having visited one of the most hostile places on Earth. The region's colorful geothermal fields and dramatic volcanic formations make it an enticing destination for photographers, eager to capture its surreal landscapes. However, visiting the Danakil Depression is not like a normal sightseeing trip. Tourists must travel with armed escorts, as the region is known for bandit activity and border conflicts with nearby Eritrea. Guides also carry gas masks and oxygen supplies, as exposure to the toxic fumes can cause immediate respiratory distress. Several tourists have collapsed from heat exhaustion, and authorities regularly issue warnings about the extreme risks of visiting the area. Unlike other adventure destinations, the Danakil Depression has no medical facilities, no rescue teams, and almost no infrastructure, meaning that anyone who falls ill or gets injured is completely on their own. A place that defies human limits. The Danakil Depression is one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, a place where nature has pushed the boundaries of what the human body can withstand. It is a land of fire, toxic air, and unbearable heat, where the Earth itself is in constant motion, reshaping the landscape in ways that few other places experience. It is a place where humans were never meant to survive, yet it continues to attract the curious, the fearless, and the scientific minds seeking answers about our planet and beyond. Whether it remains a hostile frontier for research or transforms into a hotspot for extreme tourism, one thing is certain: Earth's hell on Earth will continue to remind us of the raw and untamed power of nature. The most dangerous city on Earth, San Pedro Sula, Honduras. A city where violence never stopped. San Pedro Sula, a city of nearly 800,000 people, is known not for its skyline or culture but for something far more sinister. It has been labeled the most dangerous city on Earth, a place where violence is an everyday reality, and where life can be taken in an instant. For years, it held the title of murder capital of the world, recording the highest homicide rate globally outside of war zones. The numbers are staggering. At its peak, San Pedro Sula saw over 180 murders per 100,000 people annually, meaning that on average, someone was killed every 14 hours. Unlike cities plagued by isolated crime, the violence here is not random. It is controlled, orchestrated, and fueled by drug cartels, street gangs, and corrupt law enforcement, all of whom compete for power over the city's streets. In some neighborhoods, gangs have more authority than the police, deciding who lives, who dies, and who can safely operate a business. For the residents of San Pedro Sula, survival is not just about avoiding danger, it is about navigating a system where violence is the law of the land. A city controlled by cartels and gangs. The rise of drug cartels and organized crime has turned San Pedro Sula into a battlefield. Located near key drug trafficking routes, the city is a major transit hub for cocaine shipments traveling from South America to the United States. The flow of drugs has fueled an economy of violence, where gangs like Mara Salvatrucha, Mississippi 13, and Barrio 18 fight for dominance over smuggling routes, extortion operations, and illegal businesses. For gang members, killing is not just about eliminating rivals, it is a way to send a message. Those who refuse to pay protection money, speak out against the gangs, or even live in the wrong neighborhood can find themselves on a hit list. Victims are often tortured, dismembered, or executed in broad daylight, with bodies left in public as a warning to others. Many of the killings go unsolved because few are willing to testify, knowing that speaking out could mean a death sentence for them and their families. The level of violence has made San Pedro Sula one of the most dangerous places in the world for women, with reports of sexual violence, kidnappings, and femicide reaching alarming levels. Young men are often forcibly recruited into gangs, and those who refuse are either killed or forced to flee the country. The cycle of violence is relentless, with each act of brutality fueling the next, making escape nearly impossible for those trapped inside. When the police are part of the problem in most cities, law enforcement serves as a barrier between criminals and civilians. In San Pedro Sula, that barrier is almost non-existent. Corruption runs so deep that many police officers are either directly involved with gangs or paid off to look the other way. Those who attempt to enforce the law risk being targeted for assassination, leading to a force that is either too afraid or too compromised to intervene. Residents often report that calling the police does nothing. Many officers are either too outnumbered to act or too deeply embedded in criminal operations to offer real protection. There are cases where police officers have been caught participating in kidnappings, drug deals, and even extrajudicial killings, further blurring the line between law enforcement and organized crime. The lack of trust in the justice system means that many crimes go unreported. Even if an arrest is made, suspects often bribe their way out of jail, ensuring that justice is never served. The result is a city where criminals operate with impunity, knowing that they are above the law. The journalist who paid the ultimate price speaking out against crime in San Pedro Sula is a death sentence, and journalists who dare to expose the truth often pay with their lives. One such case was Aníbal Barro, a well-respected Honduran journalist who was kidnapped, tortured, and murdered in 2013. Barro was known for his fearless reporting on gang violence, political corruption, and human rights abuses in Honduras. He often criticized the government for its failure to control crime, and his investigative work had exposed connections between police officials and criminal organizations. But in a city where truth is dangerous, his words made him a target. On June 24, 2013, Barro was abducted while driving with his family. Armed men stopped his vehicle, dragged him away, and left his family behind. Days later, his body was discovered in a swamp, dismembered and burned, a brutal message meant to silence others who might dare to follow in his footsteps. His murder sent shockwaves through Honduras, but it also reinforced a terrifying reality: no one is safe in San Pedro Sula, not even those who fight for justice. To this day, journalists in Honduras continue to face threats, violence, and assassination attempts, forcing many to flee the country or abandon their work altogether. Why do people still live here? Despite the violence, San Pedro Sula remains home to hundreds of thousands of people, many of whom have no choice but to stay. For those living in poverty, leaving the city is not an option. Families struggling to survive are trapped in a place where employment is scarce, opportunities are limited, and the risk of extortion, robbery, or death is a daily concern. Many residents rely on informal jobs, street vending, construction work, and factory labor, to make a living. Even those who manage to find steady employment are often forced to pay extortion fees to gangs, meaning that much of their earnings go directly into the pockets of criminals. Those who refuse to pay often face violent retribution, leaving them with no safe way out. Mass migration has become the only escape for many. Thousands of Hondurans flee north each year, seeking asylum in the United States, Mexico, or other parts of Central America. For many families, the choice is clear: risk everything to leave, or stay and live in fear. But the journey is dangerous, and many never make it to safety. Some are kidnapped by cartels, others are arrested or deported, and those who return to Honduras are often targeted as traitors by local gangs. San Pedro Sula remains a city caught in a vicious cycle of violence, where crime, poverty, and corruption continue to thrive. It is a place where lawlessness has become the norm, and where escaping the grip of violence is a privilege few can afford. For those who remain, life is a constant battle for survival. It is a city where death can come without warning, where justice is a luxury few can access, and where the only certainty is that the violence will not end anytime soon. Honorable mentions: other deadly locations: Boiling Lake, Dominica, a cauldron of death hidden deep within Dominica's Morne-Trois Pitons National Park. The Boiling Lake is exactly what its name suggests: a lake that is literally boiling. Measuring approximately 200 feet (61 meters) in diameter, it is one of the hottest lakes on Earth, with temperatures ranging between 82 to 92 degrees Celsius, 180 to 197 degrees Fahrenheit, near its edges. The center of the lake is so hot that it is impossible to measure, as anyone who ventures too close risks falling victim to the superheated waters. The lake is heated by volcanic activity beneath the Earth's crust, where magma-heated gases rise through the ground and heat the water to extreme temperatures. Periodic eruptions of steam and gas create violent bubbling, making the lake's surface appear as if it is constantly in motion. Even experienced hikers who trek to the lake are warned to stay back, as unstable ground near the edges has collapsed before, sending unlucky explorers into the scalding depths. Despite its dangers, the boiling lake is a major attraction for thrill seekers, but stepping too close to its bubbling waters could mean instant death. Kawah-Ijen, Indonesia, the volcano that burns blue. Most volcanoes are known for their fiery red-orange lava flows, but Kawah-Ijen in Indonesia is unique. It is home to an eerie blue fire, an effect caused by sulfuric gases igniting as they escape from cracks in the earth. The result is a spectacular but highly toxic phenomenon, where electric blue flames dance across the mountainside, often reaching heights of up to 16 feet, 5 meters. The volcano is one of the largest sulfur mining sites in the world, but working conditions here are hellish. Miners, wearing little to no protection, are exposed to deadly sulfur dioxide fumes that can burn the lungs, cause permanent respiratory damage, and even lead to death with prolonged exposure. The air around the crater is so acidic that breathing it for too long can be fatal, and visitors are advised to wear gas masks to avoid inhaling the toxic clouds. Despite its unearthly beauty, Kawah-Ijen remains one of the most dangerous places to explore, where the stunning blue glow hides an invisible, deadly hazard. Bikini Atoll, Marshall Islands, the nuclear wasteland. Bikini Atoll, a remote coral island in the Pacific Ocean, was once a paradise, but today it stands as a radioactive ghost town, forever scarred by nuclear testing. Between 1946 and 1958, the United States conducted 67 nuclear bomb tests on and around the atoll, including Castle Bravo, one of the most powerful hydrogen bomb detonations in history. The explosion was 1,000 times more powerful than the Hiroshima bomb, vaporizing entire islands and leaving behind deadly levels of radiation that still linger today. The local Bikini Islanders were forced to evacuate, and despite efforts to clean up the land, radiation levels remained too high for safe habitation. Scientists have found that the area still contains dangerous levels of plutonium and cesium-137, making long-term exposure a serious health risk. While some daring divers visit the region to explore the sunken warships left from the nuclear tests, Bikini Atoll remains a place where the aftermath of nuclear war is permanently etched into the land. Oymyakon, Russia, the coldest place people call home. While some places on Earth are too hot to survive, Oymyakon, Russia, is the opposite extreme. Located in Siberia, it holds the record as the coldest inhabited place on Earth, where temperatures have plummeted to 67.7 degrees Celsius, 89.9 degrees Fahrenheit. Life in Oymyakon is a battle against the elements, where frostbite can occur in minutes, car batteries freeze solid, and the air itself becomes thick with ice crystals. Locals wear multiple layers of fur and wool, but even with protection, simply stepping outside can be a life-threatening challenge. The ground is permanently frozen in permafrost, making agriculture nearly impossible. Residents rely on reindeer meat, fish, and frozen horse blood stew to survive the brutal winters. Boiling water turns to ice instantly when thrown into the air, and exposed skin can suffer frostbite within seconds. Despite the extreme cold, Oymyakon remains home to a small but resilient community, proving that humans can adapt to even the most punishing conditions on Earth. A planet of beauty and danger. Earth is a planet of breathtaking landscapes, rich biodiversity, and incredible natural wonders. But beneath this beauty lies hidden dangers, places where human survival is nearly impossible, where the environment itself is a relentless force, and where stepping foot could be a death sentence. From boiling lakes and nuclear wastelands to lawless cities and uncharted depths, the most dangerous places on Earth test the limits of human endurance, adaptability, and knowledge. These places are not just fascinating, they serve as reminders of nature's untamed power. Whether it's a volcanic wasteland in Ethiopia, a forbidden island guarded by an uncontacted tribe, or an ocean trench that remains unexplored, each of these locations reveals just how little control we truly have over the forces of the Earth. The stories of those who have ventured into these extreme environments, whether by accident, by choice, or in the pursuit of scientific discovery, prove that risk and curiosity often go hand in hand. Why knowing about these places matters? Understanding these deadly locations isn't just about thrill-seeking or curiosity, it's about awareness and survival. Every year, tourists, explorers, and even scientists underestimate the risks of extreme environments, leading to tragedy, loss, and even global consequences. Whether it's people underestimating the lethal heat of Death Valley, adventurers pushing their limits on Everest's dead zone, or journalists stepping into crime-ridden cities, the dangers of these places are very real. Knowing about these places also helps protect the ecosystems and cultures that exist within them. Many of these extreme locations, from Lake Natron's calcified wildlife to the bioluminescent predators of the Mariana Trench, hold valuable secrets that could expand our understanding of science, evolution, and even space exploration. Meanwhile, isolated tribes like the Sentinelese remind us of the importance of preserving cultures untouched by modern civilization, ensuring that history and tradition are not erased by reckless human interference. Understanding these places isn't just about knowing where not to go, it's about appreciating the Earth's extremes, respecting nature's power, and recognizing that not all places are meant to be conquered. Which location shocked you the most? Now that you've seen some of the most dangerous, mysterious, and extreme places on Earth, which one shocked you the most? Was it the boiling inferno of the Darvaza Gas Crater, the radioactive ruins of Chernobyl, or the crime-infested streets of San Pedro Sula? Maybe it was the Mariana Trench, with its terrifying creatures lurking in the abyss, or Snake Island, where venomous serpents outnumber humans by the thousands. Let us know in the comments below, and if you could visit just one of these places, which one would it be, and why? Like, comment, and subscribe for more mind-blowing content. If you enjoyed this journey through some of the world's most deadly and forbidden places, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more content exploring the mysteries, extremes, and hidden secrets of our planet. We release new videos covering unbelievable facts, shocking discoveries, and the darkest corners of the world, so don't miss out. Turn on notifications so you never miss an upload, and share this video with friends who love adventure, science, and mind-blowing facts. There's still so much more to explore, and the world's most dangerous places are just the beginning.